Vasily Kandinsky once said, "Color has a direct influence on one's soul." We extend this definition to include light. And this month, Studio 106 Art Gallery is celebrating its 5th anniversary with the international show, an exhibition, Castles in the Air, by 2 British artists, Cary and Jim Webb. Studio 106 Art Gallery is a platform for research, investigation and presentation of contemporary art. And we foster dialogues between cultures and generations and interaction between the audience and the art. And this project, Castles in the Air, is a very good reflection upon our philosophy and our values.
I came out of art school and I started, trying to show my work and in galleries and things. I was doing a lot of figurative work, and all my work, however abstract, comes from somewhere figurative starting point. And although that's not the most important thing to me, I think that even in the most abstract work, there is coming an energy of the feeling of life. My main influences have been, I suppose, the American abstract expressionists. I admire Rothko and Pollock and all these people, but I still love figurative work too, so I'm always a little bit torn between the two. I spend a lot of time drawing and painting from life, and then these other things come out of somewhere in my brain. I visualize it a little bit before I start. I have some idea, but once I start the painting, it's a total adventure. I don't quite know where it will lead. Some paintings come quite easily, quite quickly. Some are a real battle. But curious enough, the ones that are real battle are often the best, hoping that it doesn't look like a fight on the canvas when it's finished, but it's the struggle to get it from looking kind of okay to just having that edge. In February, I was brought over here to Montenegro by Dushanka, and I was looking at the countryside and seeing how beautiful it was and the scenery and doing little sketches, and things started to come into my mind of pictures I could do. In particular, I saw a white cross on a hillside and thought I must do a painting of that. So anyway, I'm working on all these different pictures, in my unconscious mind, all to do with Montenegro. And all the time I'm thinking I must do this white cross. And then I started this big picture of a big abstract. And I'm working on this thing which seems to be totally abstract. And all the time I'm still, even at night, thinking I must do this picture of the white cross. Then when I finished this picture, I looked at it and I thought, I've done the white cross, I've done it. So there it is, the white cross. I've always been more or less painting on a flat surface, paper and canvas and so on. And then I had these ideas of doing three-dimensional work, which is actually when Jim and I were introduced by a friend. And he was showing me what lasers can do, and that started to trigger ideas. And I started to experiment with painting on Perspex, transparent paintings, starting to get the depth, the feel of 3 dimensions. And so these were sort of some of the first experiments that I was doing. And this is painted on 2 sheets of Perspex. That's the background, and then you turn it round, and that's the foreground, and it already is starting to have a feeling of depth, which was beginning to interest me more and more. And then Jim and I started to experiment with different ideas, and so out of these first experiments grew these installations that we've been working on. And every one is different, and certainly the one we've done here is specially done for the space here. And I'm really excited about the developments. I think the combination of the technology and the painting and the sort of, the concept of a sort of a composition which is actually 3-dimensional, but it's not sculpture per se, is quite different and quite exciting. So we've got this sort of feeling of it being painting, technology, and we hope that it does the magic for somebody and people find it exciting.
Caroline and I met about 6 years ago, and we got talking about various ideas that she had. She listened to the ideas I had, and we realised suddenly there's a lot of common ground that we could work on. So we started experimenting with my laser work, we started experimenting with her painting work, and all of a sudden we realised, hey, this is going to go places. And guess what? It has.
Here we have another abstract painting, but when you look at it carefully, you will see it's coming to life.
Now, my work consists of using light as a paintbrush. Space is my canvas. I draw into space with laser beams. And this is where we come together in that we have created a new space using the laser beams, where Caroline's producing 2-dimensional frames that we combine with the laser beams to produce a 3rd-dimensional space. And in the overall concept that we're creating, we're also creating a space on the floor, on the wall, throughout the entire structure. It's completely 3-dimensional. But interestingly enough, because we're introducing almost a time element into it, the whole thing becomes not just 3-dimensional, but also 4-dimensional. Because suddenly you have real, live, moving images appearing between the paintings, on the floor, everywhere. We have all the dimensions available to you. I suppose it really started when I saw a front cover of Life magazine, which had a picture of a laser beam going through a razor blade. It burnt a hole through a razor blade, sparks everywhere. And of course, as a little kid, that's really fascinating. I was into science fiction and things like that, and this was a death ray. This is like, wow, I've got to know all about these things, and got to read as much as I could about lasers. And yes, it was theoretical, I knew all the theory, and that's really as far as it went. Then, quite a long time later, in 1977, somebody put a real laser in my hand. And when that happened, that was it, my life changed. Because that was the real McCoy. I had to learn all about this, play with it, experiment, have fun with it, and most importantly, have fun with it. Because that's what lasers are about, fun. started doing a lot of work together, experimenting with various methods. There were cases of being just pure laser light. Then we started realizing that we could use transparent paintings, pass the laser beam through to produce a third dimension. And all of a sudden it started evolving into something quite different to what the norm is. And this is where we started doing some projects, mostly in London. We did a rather large, we filled a rather large space with something which we called Horizon 2. Then Studio 106 Gallery invited us to do a piece there, which we did rather nicely. And Dushanka very kindly mentioned maybe you might like to do something in Montenegro, which was, I must admit, unfortunately, it was a place I'd never actually even heard of, so, we sort of said, yes, okay, well, let's do that. And Dushanka pulled together a lot of, well, she did a lot of work, and suddenly we find ourselves here with this new project, which we've been working on for quite a while, and now it's come completely to fruition. And it's actually quite great to be here because admittedly, over the past few days I've been here, I've tended to concentrate on the work, and I haven't seen much of Montenegro. But what little I have seen, I really do like the place, and I'm enjoying the people and enjoying the experience here, and I'm looking forward to spending a lot more weeks here. One of the seedlings came from the big project that we did at TBW, Trinity Boy Wharf up in London, which was essentially the big river, but it was also the first time that we used the waterfall as well as a concept.
Yes, yeah.
And the two together started working very nicely. And we found that experimenting with various things, we then added another dimension of not just having a waterfall going downwards, but also have flames shooting upwards.
Yeah, but that was for here.
That was specifically for here, yes, but I mean that was part of the developmental process.
I mean, you know, the way we work is to have one idea, and then in the next place we evolve it and, you know, make it a little bit more subtle, a bit more complicated. So we started with the river, waterfall, then suddenly we thought, red going up, fire.
Absolutely. That really burns into people's consciousness almost. But at the same time, because we use extreme colours, you see, remember, lasers are a very pure colour. So we tended to use reds and blues, which is the extreme of the spectrum, and they create a real tension. And that's where some of your work really comes to life, because the way you've got the blues and the reds where you pass the beams through and then they interact with each other, and the space in between is part of the dreams, the castles in the air.
Yes, the castles in the air, the fantasy, whatever anybody wants to read into it. And most people have a completely different interpretation. You know, people, when they look at things, and this is not an original statement, it comes from Leonardo da Vinci, they can't help making something, seeing an image. So I think everybody has a different take. You know, for some people that will be the sun, for somebody else it will be the globe. Who knows?
Totally.